Produced by Rooted in Rights, a program of Disability Rights Washington. Seattle City Council District 2 Transportation and Sustainability Candidate Forum, hosted by the Mass Coalition, Transit Riders Union, Tech for Housing, and the Housing Consortium.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here, and thanks to the organizers for making sure we are all accommodated the way we need to be. I'm Tammy Morales, and I am going to sheepishly admit that I got here in my car by myself.
Hello everyone, my name is Peguero, and I arrived on my motorcycle.
Good evening everybody, my name is Ari Hoffman. I got here in my now famous Dodge Charger V8 Hemi RT.
My name is Omari Tahir, and I want to apologize for taking Metro because I only paid $1 because I'm a senior citizen and I'm 73 years old.
Hi, thanks for being here this evening, and again, thank everybody for participating on getting this show on the road. My name is Phyllis Porter, and I did take the light rail this morning. I also took the bus, but here I took my car.
My name is Mark Solomon. I am from North Beacon Hill, and I drove here in our personal car with my wife.
In the process of building affordable housing, communities of color have been displaced while white people have moved into new developments. How will you protect these vulnerable communities from being displaced due to new housing construction?
I think housing affordability, low-income housing, and affordable family housing specifically near our transit corridors is the most important piece around equity and how we build to make sure that all folks can remain in place. I think that's the biggest question that we have, that as gentrification displacement pressures continue to be placed upon our district, that we're not seeing folks continue to leave. I think I'm very interested in looking at rent control as a way to look at how we can mitigate that gentrification displacement in our district.
Right. Pass the mic to your left. And please introduce yourself again.
Same question.
Same question.
Would you mind repeating it, please?
Sure. In the process of building affordable housing, communities of color have been displaced while white people have moved into new developments. How will you protect these vulnerable communities from being displaced due to this construction?
Hello everybody again, my name is Ari Hoffman. One of the biggest issues that we're having right now is with regards to the codes. Because the codes are so onerous and because the codes are so restrictive, we have problems building the things that we want to build. It's taken me almost 3 years to get a permit on a single family house in my neighborhood that I'm trying to build. If we make the codes more reasonable and we take them apart and see what's practical about them, we can lower the prices for everybody and make housing more affordable for Seattle for everybody who wants to move here, who lives here now.
My name is Omari Tahir, and I'm apologizing for being a contractor that builds houses. I bought my first house in 1966 when I was 19, working at Boeing's, making $1,000 a week overtime, working 10 hours a day, Saturday and Sunday. I quit the baseball team out at Shoreline, which half the baseball and football team joined the Seattle Police Department. And I taught school from preschool all the way to lecturing at the UW, Washington State, Wayne State in Detroit, and Bellingham, Western Washington State. I'm an expert in world travel. I lived in Africa for 4 years. I've traveled all over Africa. I lived in London for 6 months. I traveled all over Europe.
That's technically right now.
And if you want to know a solution, I'm a solution man. I'm not a talker. I'm not campaigning on literature and yard signs. I don't want you to vote for me because your friend is voting for you.
Hi, my name is Phyllis Porter. I think displacement, when we talk about the homelessness, we talk about displacement, of course they play hand in hand. So I would say for the developers that right now they can take a certain portion of money and put it into a fund, and they can build a certain amount of housing units. I think one or two things. With that funding that they're putting in, I think maybe we should have that stopped completely and just make it mandatory that the developers make more housing. Also, when there's developers that are coming in and they're getting new buildings, buying new buildings, I think that the people that are already low income or the people that have already been processed for low income, when these buildings come in, the developers, I think they should automatically roll the people that have already been processed low income into the newer places without them having to go through the process again.
Mark Solomon. One of the things I'm looking at with the mandatory housing affordability And the upzones, first I want to make sure that the upzones do not adversely impact the property owners, the single-family property owners. Second thing I want to make sure is that if a developer decides to pay into the fund as opposed to set aside affordable housing units, that if they're building in this district, the funds that they put into, that pot come back to build housing in our district. Third thing I want to do is make sure that we examine our tax exemptions and tax deferments for our seniors so that they can stay in their homes and not be economically evicted.
Can you just tell me what your signaling is?
Yeah, I'm doing this to wrap up. You have 5 seconds.
Okay, thank you. I'm Tammy Morales, and I think that one of the things we have to do is stop gentrification planning and really start planning our cities for the working class. We've let developers run roughshod over the city, and we need to rein that in. We do that by permanently affordable housing. We can use land trusts to do that so that rents stay low, so that ownership stays low on that land. The other thing we need to do is require that any city surplus land get used for social housing and for low-income housing, rather than selling it off to the highest bidder, which is what we seem to be doing right now. And then finally, we need to preserve existing affordable housing and stop allowing for permits to destroy the housing that is affordable right now. And if it means that the city has to pay the current owner of that property market rate in order to preserve that, then so be it. And then finally, this isn't just about increasing housing and the affordability, it's also about making sure that people can make a living. So we need to invest in infrastructure, in family wage, union jobs, so that people can actually have a livelihood.
Many in our city, and we're going to start this one with Ari. Many in our city have barriers to traditional affordable housing, such as an eviction record, a criminal record, physical disability, substance abuse disorder, low or no income, and mental health disorders. What strategies would you employ to ensure that these people have access to housing that meets their needs?
I'm Ari Hoffman. If you look at what happened with Lipton Springs and a lot of the other low barrier encampments, the problem, or low barrier shelters also, is that we aren't treating the problems. We're allowing people to come in, bringing the problems with them. We're not assigning social workers. We're not making sure that treatment's available to them. To bring anybody into housing, they're going to have the exact same problems in housing that they have without housing. I know this from my own personal experience in my family. If you just give them everything, it's enabling behavior. What you need to make sure is that they have the treatment they need, they have the support system they need, and there's an interesting program you're going to check out in Atlanta where they have social workers living with people in houses to try and help them solve their issues so they can integrate back into society. I'd like to look into exploring those options.
My name is Omari Tahir, and I qualify for everything that she said. No income, low income, mental disability, I've lived in the downtown emergency center. I got accused of having a Nicholsville, Dearborn homeless encampment, when the Native American is the one that allowed them to be on the Motorfest Peace Center lot. Now, the reason why I established Motorfest Peace Center in the Africa town is because Chinatown is fighting a better battle against gentrification. Even though all over the country, they're destroying and gentrifying Chinatowns because they figure Chinatown is a fifth column for China. And China is very competitive even with capitalists. I don't want you to vote for me. I prefer you vote for Ms. Morales, who ran against Bruce Harrell last year. Thank you.
Sure. I'll try to summarize. A lot of people in the city have barriers to traditional affordable housing, like mental disabilities, substance use disorders, an eviction record, criminal record. What would you do to ensure that those folks have the housing that they need, that meets their needs?
Again, my name is Phyllis Porter. I think first of all, I start with working with some of the agencies that do that now. There's one agency, Pioneer Human Services, that works directly with those that have been incarcerated. They help with wraparound services. They start with mental health. They start with education, employment. If you have any type of drug addiction, if you have problems with your family, they take care of those issues. And they also work with legislators. So I think we will continue to work with legislators in Olympia to make sure, like ban the box. We have banned the box now, but still we have to go beyond ban the box. So I think we have to come up with more ordinances, more laws in order to make sure that when people are getting out of prison or people who need help, that that help is there.
Mark Sullivan. I like the idea of using the ban the box approach when it comes to housing. I like the idea of eliminating source of income discrimination that prevents people from getting into homes. I want to support those efforts. I'm very happy that the state passed legislation to provide some relief for people who may be facing eviction from 3 days to 21 days, so they have a chance to get right with that property owner. And I also think we need to be working with our property owners, with our landlords, to have a little bit more compassion for somebody who may be struggling. For those who, again, maybe one paycheck away, one car repair away, one utility bill away from finding themselves on the street. So there are a number of things that we can do working together, working with the state legislature, again, working with our partners in the county to make sure that people can stay in their homes.
Am I next? Okay. I'm Tammy. So I think for those who are at risk for eviction, the state legislature just changed their policy so that people actually have a longer amount of time before they get pushed out. I think it's 60 to 90 days, which should help with some of that. We can also provide shallow subsidies for longer periods of time so people don't have just a month to be able to move into their next apartment. I think in terms of those who are chronically homeless, it is providing treatment and services to those people is not giving them everything, it's actually treating some of the issues that they have. And we need to do more of that if we're really going to talk about helping folks transition into housing that they can stabilize in. We do that by expanding the LEAD program, which is proven to be effective at helping people get into housing permanently. The navigation teams we have are a waste of money. It's unconstitutional, it's not effective, and it wastes taxpayer dollars. Instead, we should be investing that money in LEAD programs that can actually get people into housing quicker. Prolific offenders also are not prioritized for housing, so we need to change that. And we need to preserve affordable housing.
Thank you, Chris Peguero. For our campaign, housing is a human right. We believe that we need to have housing first before we move towards treatment options. That you need stability first, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you're loved and you've got a house, then we can start moving towards dealing with trauma that some of our houseless folks are dealing with in regards to their addiction. We recognize that not all of our homeless population are experiencing addiction, so we want to continue also to support non-government agencies that are helping, like Mercy Housing, who are building low-income and affordable housing, like Hayarashi Place, Roberto Maestas Plaza, and the new Mount Baker Family Housing. I believe in harm reduction and safe injection sites, making sure that folks have a place that they're supported as they're seeking treatment, as well as those options. The main priority for me is looking at all of our housing in regards to the race and social justice lens, and I'll stop there. Thank you.
All right, our next question will start with Omari. There's not currently a single all ages and all abilities route for people biking from anywhere in Southeast Seattle to downtown. Is this important to you, and what will you do to fix it?
Well, I have 4 bicycles, and I'm 73, and I like riding the bicycle because they're quiet. I got to push more. I like to push more because it has a low carbon footprint and it starts every time. We need more bicycle paths because other places, Europe and China, bicycling is, let me tell you this. In Ghana, West Africa, where I lived for 4 years, a bicycle is like a car. It's very valuable, and so the solution is we got to move away from the cars, more toward bicycles, and I don't know why they built this big, huge train-like thing that's just another bus, but it's got a track. And if you're not careful on your bicycle will go down in the track, and the one lady already died.
My name is Phyllis.
Sure. There is currently a single all ages and all abilities route from Southeast Seattle to downtown. Is this important to you, and how will you fix it?
Yes, it's important to me. I've been a member of the Rainier Valley Ring Race, the chair for about the last 5 years, and just recently ended up when I decided to do this. But that's one of the things we've been working on for a long time. So one of the things I would do, first of all, we have worked really hard on talking to the community, and we've been getting solutions, we've been getting answers from the community. So what I would like to do is take some of that information that we've already gathered and make sure that that is being implemented. We can continue to advocate and say we need these things. We can continue to go to City Hall. We can continue to talk to the council members, and we can fight for these things. But every time we go back to the table, we have more meetings. It's time out for the meetings. It's time for the shovels, and it's time for the action. So I would say take some of the information that we've already gathered and get working on that.
Ari Sullivan. I agree with Phyllis. You know, the work's been done, the studies have been done. At some point, City Council needs to act, not do more studies. When I've been out in the community talking to folks, I'm hearing about the concern for the safety of cyclists, as well as the safety of pedestrians. So, do we need to look at more protected bike lanes so that our cyclists are safe when they're coming in contact with four-wheel vehicular traffic? Yeah. So again, the work's been done, the studies have been done. Bring folks to the table, let's work together on solutions to make it actually happen.
I'm Tammy, and yeah, this one goes to Phyllis, I gotta say. We have studied this thing, we've designed the plan, we need to just build the damn thing. I mean, we've talked about this for years, so we need at least one commuter route from South Seattle into downtown, whether it's Beacon Avenue or Rainier Avenue. We need to build the bike networks, including east-west. We need protected bike lanes so that people can get around their neighborhoods safely, to run errands, to go to the grocery store, to go pick up their kids at daycare, for kids to get to school. I worked down in Rainier Beach, and we had a gentleman who died on his bike just a few months ago because he was trying to get to work and people were not even aware that bicyclists are around. So it's time to stop wasting our time with community meetings and just build the thing that we've been saying we need for years now.
Thank you, Chris Peguero. We have a bike master plan, and we need to build it like we've shared, some of us have shared it up here. I think a few of the concerns I have are the expense of building protected lanes. I think we need them, but how do we build them so that it's, I think there was a dramatic number that came out about how expensive it was. I forget the exact number in millions per mile, but if there's a better way to do that that is less expensive. The other concern that I have is making sure that bikes are accessible to all families. I think for the most part, communities of color oftentimes don't think of bikes as an option. How do we make sure that equipment, language, the cost of participating or being part of the bike culture is not primarily just white and male? Like, we have to make sure that everyone has access. So how do we build that access so that everyone can benefit from that?
I'm Ari Hoffman. My website is hoffmanforseattle.com. Just to get spikes that up a little bit. I recreationally ride my bicycle. I do it in the summer. I do it in the 3 months a year that's nice here in Seattle because it rains the rest of the time. As you can tell, I haven't been out in a while. And the biggest problem that I have is that we're spending all this money on these bike lanes that cannot be used most of the year because most people are recreational cyclists like me. The people who commute, we need them to be safe and we need protected bike lanes. But so many of these things were done without community input, like the ones that are going in on Wilson Avenue right now, which are going to negatively affect the neighborhood and make it less safe because now families with disabilities, families with children, cannot park in front of their own houses, have to cross a very busy street from the Rainier Avenue road diet, and it's dangerous. And there's no crosswalks for them to get across that street. Their driveways are like this. And if they back out, they're going to hit a cyclist or they're going to hit somebody else. So what happened was, we ignored the communities. We didn't talk to the communities. I'm all for bicycle routing and bike paths, but we need to make sure that the routing makes sense and doesn't affect homeowners and businesses.
Thanks. question, and then we're going to go to a lightning round. We'll start with Phyllis. Describe your experience advancing racial equity. How has it informed your approach to land use, transportation planning, and public outreach?
My name is Phyllis. That's a great question. You know, I think every day, just being an African American person, I think I'm looking in the eyes of equity every day. Take for instance, I've been in transportation for a long time. And a lot of times when we go to meetings, I'm pretty much the only person, African American, that's sitting there. And I think it's very important that that representation is there because people have different ways of relating to different things. One may say, let's just go out and buy a bicycle, and let's go ride for a couple of hours or whatever. But then you may have that family that's there, that other person who said, you know what, I can't really take my money and go and buy a bicycle. So I think looking at things in an equity, you have to look at each individual, the culture from which they come, to see how you can get together to come up with a solution needed for different things. So.
Marcel, my work as a crime prevention coordinator with the Seattle Police Department has really been about equity. It's been about making sure that the folks in the community, regardless of their citizenship status, regardless of their background, regardless of their identity, are treated with fairness, with respect, with dignity. There have been many times I've been in this exact room talking to folks about how they can be safer in their communities. And I've had multiple translations and interpretations going on at the same time. Somali in that corner, Oromo in this corner, Vietnamese in this corner, Arabic right over here. The work I do is about ensuring equity and inclusion, and making sure that voices are heard and people are respected and people are safe.
This is Tammy. So I think there are several things that we need to do to ensure equity. We need to, our economic systems don't work for communities of color right now. So across the board, we need anti-displacement strategies. We need criminal justice reform. We need to support minority-owned businesses and make sure that the economic vibrancy of our communities includes people of color and communities from different ethnic groups. As a council member, one of the things I want to do is to pass a race and social justice ordinance because right now we have an initiative that we like to hold up as a shiny thing, but we're just tokenizing racial equity. Our city departments don't actually invest because the mayor, who's in charge of the budget, doesn't invest in our city departments. So I think we really need to make sure that we are investing in our city workers so that they can do the work we've charged them to do. They get tokenized, they get harassed when they ask questions around racial equity in their departments. So we need to make sure that that doesn't happen so that they can work on our behalf on racial equity across the city.
Chris Peguero. Tammy, sounds like you were just talking about me, my experience at the city around race and social justice and equity work. I've been at the city for 12 years, and the last 10 years, I've been part of the city's Race and Social Justice Initiative core team. And again, it's paramount that as we look at how we develop programs and policies within the city of Seattle, can you hear me? Within the city of Seattle, that we're bringing together communities with the potential for potential for harm, that they're at the table to help shape policies and programs to benefit everybody. My work has been centered around race and social justice, LGBTQ equity work. I started the city's LGBTQ equity affinity group called Sequel, and I started City Light's environmental justice program. So my concern is directly in line with what Tammy mentioned, and we've worked together on helping actually produce what Tammy laid out around racial justice ordinance.
Can you repeat the question,
Sure.
please?
Describe your experience advancing racial equity. How has it informed your approach to land use, transportation planning, and public outreach?
Racial equity to me means that everybody's equal. Equity for all. The Jewish community is here in Seward Park, nearby in Seward Park rather, because we had to leave the central district because of discrimination. I don't want that to happen to any other community. At the same time, I can't be silent when certain people online think it's okay to just let anti-Semitism go by. Jews are 1/10 of the world's population. We are one of the ultimate minorities. And I don't see anybody on the stage or in this room condemning it. So if we're going to start talking about racial equity and racial justice, let's start dealing with something that's right in front of us that we can't talk about. Thank you.
I want to apologize for being 73 and having more experience than the youngsters that I'm around. And then I would also like to apologize for teaching school where I taught a class about all the problems in this culture and society. And then the second half of the class was the students design a culture and design out all the flaws. So the ideas that I got from the young people, we've already solved all these problems. I would just like to condemn this whole concept of race because there's only one race. That's called the human race. In the human race, you got different religions, you got different cultures. But guess what? When I'm in Japan, all the rich people in Japan live good. When I'm in Europe, all the rich people in Europe live good. When I'm in Africa, all the rich people in Africa live good. All the poor people all over the world are struggling. In other words, we got to get rid of poverty.
All right, now we're going to do a lightning round. Let's do blue button. Hold up, red for no and green for yes. And we're going to take 3 pause to do this. I'll start taking questions. All right. Here we go. Green, so just pretend that's green and pretend that's red. Those are sort of yellow and pink. Okay. Do you support rent control?
Red means no.
Red means no.
Green means
So I'm just going to read these. Tammy Morales says yes. Chris says yes. Ari says no. Omari says yes. Phyllis says no. And Mark says yes. Do you support the legislation proposed by Councilmember Mike O'Brien to make it easier to build backyard cottages and mother-in-law apartments in single-family areas? I believe it looks like everybody says yes to that one. Do you support congestion pricing?
Say that again.
Congestion pricing.
This is
Charge
a different
people to
answer
come
than
into
what I
town
said before. I'll
in their
explain
cars. All right, Tammy says no. Chris says yes. Ari says no. Omari's thinking.
I don't know what, so I'm going with
Okay,
Ms.
Omari
Morales.
says no. Phyllis
Use
says
my
no.
brain.
And Mark says no. Do you support legalizing electric scooter share in Seattle?
More transportation options.
I'm seeing a lot of yeses. All right, everybody says yes. Some holding their cards higher than others. Tammy is holding yes. All right. Do you support creating a safe lot with security and restrooms for people living in their cars to sleep at night? That's part 1. And so everybody says yes except Ari, who says no. And part 2 is, do you support having a safe lot in District 2?
Say that again.
A safe parking lot for people to sleep in their, people living in their cars to sleep at night. A safe parking lot for people living in their cars to sleep at night in District 2. All right, so everybody says yes except for Ari, same as the first one. All right, so we're going to go back to longer questions, 1 minute each. We're going to start with Mark this time. Which bus routes in the district will you prioritize in the short and long term, and why?
Mark Solomon. Well, since I take the 36 quite a bit to get to work, that's what I want to prioritize. Hey, gotta be real. At the same time, I'm looking at the fact that we don't really have a whole lot of east-west connections when it comes to our transit. So let's do something to increase that. You know, if you're in Rainier Beach and you want to get to West Seattle, how are you going to do that efficiently without taking half the day to do it? So when I look at the 107, when I look at the 50, you know, can we do some expansion there? Can we do, you know, increase some stops? I want to see increased east-west connectors to our north-south transit system.
in the same vein, I'd like to prioritize the 50 because that's what I take to get to the light rail, and it doesn't come nearly often enough. I also think that we need to work on East-West. We have a lot of students in South Seattle whose designated college is South Seattle College in Delridge. It takes like 2 hours to get there on the bus. So maybe not that long, but it takes a long time. We definitely need to work on our East-West connections. I know the folks in Georgetown are frustrated that it is harder and harder for them to get downtown and to get to where they need to go. So the parts of our district that are struggling with lack of reliability or with lack of frequency really need to be prioritized. And that's what I got. Thanks.
You mind repeating the question, please?
Well, now it's covered in sticky.
Sorry.
Which bus routes in the district would you prioritize in the short and long term?
Again, my self-interest is the 36. I call it the people's bus. I love the 36, but also the number 7 bus. I think the number 7 bus is that's widely used. Well, there was a question about making that a rapid transit bus, but I think when we make decisions like that, we're not incorporating what are the impacts that decision going to have on folks that really rely on that bus. So our elders, our students that rely on that bus. One program that I really like right now is I think it's called VIA. It's an app-based system that connects east-west to our link light rail, but we do need to go further than that from the Far East Side to like Georgetown and other areas like South Park. So I think we need to invest in more programs like that. But then also looking at the limited ability for folks to access that as an app on your phone. So we need to make sure that everyone has access to that.
I'm Ari Hoffman. Chris, we finally agree on something. The 7 bus, but I'd like to take this in a little bit of a different direction. That's the one closest to me also. But for me, it's a safety matter, is that we had to stop taking the kids from our synagogue camps on the 7 bus because it was too dangerous for them to go, because every time they went, there was an incident on it. I want to make sure that the bus routes we have now are safe, and then we can start discussing how we can expand the rest of them so that we can take care of the first mile and last mile, and we can make sure that people can get to and from the light rail. Another idea, which probably won't be so popular in this room, is how come we don't have more parking options down by the light rail? So people who don't have easy access to bus, at least for the short term, can find a place to park near the light rail stations and then won't be taking their cars into Seattle.
I'm real proud of Metro. When I'm in Africa, the bus might be an hour late, might be 2 hours late, it might not come to the next day. You just have to roll over and take it. I love riding the bus all the way to Bellevue Art Museum and back for $1. I don't buy car insurance because they want $900 to $1,200 a month. So whenever I have to really go somewhere, I take the Metro bus because being a senior citizen is only $1. And it might cost me $10 in gas, and I can get on the Metro. I don't have to worry about the police stopping me because I don't have insurance, because that's a $450 ticket. And I don't have $450 to pay for a ticket. So I'm real impressed with the Metro bus system. The 7, there's some that safety is a problem. And I'm impressed with some of the bus drivers for being able to take the abuse that they get from some of the kids.
I'm Phyllis. I would say I would want to start with the number 7. The reason I want to start with the number 7 is because it's so widely used. I want to make sure that it's maintained. I do hear people talk about the inconsistencies of the schedules, so I would love to make sure that the inconsistencies cease and we do better at making sure the people that live in the community, that need to get through the community, need to stay within the community, has that proper transportation to make sure they can get to where they need to go. But I also hear people talking about the east and west connection as well. So I think those would be the 2 things. I would work on the number 7 going north and south to make sure it's maintained, and also look into ways of making sure that we have that east-west connection as well.
Let's pass the mic all the way back down to Tammy. We'll start with you. 79% of Seattle is zoned single family. What, if any, changes would you propose to allow different types of housing in these neighborhoods in the future?
Well, I think that upzoning is the obvious answer to that. We have a lot of small apartment buildings. We have garage apartments, mother-in-laws throughout the district already. Beacon Hill is full of duplexes and fourplexes that blend in with the character of the neighborhood, and everybody seems just fine with that. So I think that that is a way for us to, Michael Bryan calls it gentle density. We don't need 300 unit buildings on every block in the city, but I think allowing for urban infill throughout our single family neighborhoods is a really important way to allow for more options for affordability and allow more kinds of uses in our neighborhoods. Where I live, we have a small, I think it's maybe an 8-unit complex. We have another that's maybe 10 or 15, a few blocks away on the arterial. And it works just fine. We all get along, and it's a great option for increasing density.
Chris Peguero. For the record, we're FIMBYs, we're public housing in our backyard. My neighborhood is real close to Mount Baker Light Rail Station. We're single family zoned, but I'd like to see an increase of multifamily zoning within 75% of single family zone. I think we have to be real about the history of racial segregation that's played out in our housing policies that have kept folks from being part of having more diversity within the rest of the city. Right now, the HALA and MHA is predominantly within our transit corridors and our already densified parts of the city. I think we need to look at how do we increase housing that everyone in the city, all districts are responsible for sharing the burden or being part of the solution to making sure that we have more affordable housing in the city of Seattle throughout.
I'm still Ari Hoffman. If you're worried about gentrification and displacement, the quickest way to do that is through upzoning single-family neighborhoods. What you need to do instead is look at underdeveloped and undeveloped areas. For example, those of you who live in the area know that on MLK Way, heading to the light rail, there's a lot of places there that can be developed, built up, taller skyscrapers with more housing in them right near the light rail, so it won't add to congestion problems. The other thing we should look at is incorrect zoning. My synagogue, the synagogue across the street, the school across the street, and the church across the street are all zoned single family. There's plenty of other commercial properties that are zoned single family. Those could be changed, those could be modified to allow for more upzoning in those areas rather than impacting neighborhoods. If you look at the Jewish community in Vancouver, British Columbia, it was destroyed by upzoning because developers came in and said, your house is now worth 5, 6, 7, 8 townhomes, here's $4 or $5 million. People took the money and left. That was the end of the neighborhood.
I want to apologize again for living in Europe. The difference between the U.S. and Europe is the government builds all the apartment houses. So you're guaranteed to get a place to live. London and Paris have been gentrified for 100 years. I don't care what color you are. If you're not rich, you're not buying no property in London or Paris where you have a yard or a lot for a garden. Until the government stops privatizing land, you've never seen an unemployed, homeless bird, have you? Because when the bird don't have a home, his job is finding a tree and then picking up and building a nest. But the problem in human society is the government controls all the land and you have to buy the land to build the house. In Africa, I do rammed earth constructions in the village because 95% of Africa is land, unused.
Hi, Phyllis. I first would say probably start with transit-oriented development. We want to make sure that the land that we have, like Ari said earlier, there is some land on Martin Luther King. Around the light rail station, there's land. And I would actually use that to make sure that we could build from there. We have people that live in those communities. People that don't, some people travel downtown and some do not. But if we could build up that community and have people live right there and work right there in the communities, I think that would be one way to do it. Another thing when we talk about upzoning can be okay. However, when you bring in private developers, even with upzoning, I live in an upzoning building, and it's very, 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 very expensive. So I think if we're going to continue to use upzoning, we need to make sure that those buildings are funded publicly and not by private developers.
Marcelo, I'm going to echo some of the things that have already been said. That our density, our building, as we're building up, increasing our capacity, should be transit-centered. Looking at the old urban village model, where you put the housing close to transit, close to shopping, to make it more convenient for the folks who are actually going to live in those buildings. And as has been said, you know, when we're looking at mandatory housing affordability, I am concerned about the unintended consequences that the property owners of those single-family zones may be hit with higher property taxes based on what the property could potentially be. You know, the potential use versus the existing use. So I want to make sure that we address those unintended consequences and these single-family homes are not hit. Now, do we need to look at zoning? Yes, we do. And we need to look at where we currently have it, and maybe we need to look at our industrial areas as well.
All right. You guys are doing a great job keeping the time and also introducing yourselves, so I just wanted to acknowledge that and thank you. Seattle has the most progressive tax system of any city in Washington State, and Washington State has the most progressive tax system in the country. Do you believe that the city has a responsibility to raise significant new revenue to address the challenges facing our communities? And if so, what tax policies would you advocate for at the city level?
Chris Peguero, I think the city's really relied heavily upon increasing property tax as we've developed new initiatives and programs. And we really need to make sure that that is not an additional pressure for gentrification displacement, especially for our folks who are elderly that they've retired, there's no more income coming in, they've got a pension that's stagnant, it's remaining the same. So I think that's one place, but I think, you know, if we, I'm very interested in a capital gains tax at the state level, so I think lobbying the state to look at other ways to generate revenue outside of just property tax, and that's all I have. I'm tired, sorry.
I'm Ari Hoffman. I'm against any tax increases until we know where the money we have is going. City coffers are full. We have a $6 billion budget. We don't know where that money's going. We know it's going to non-performing agencies. It's not going to performing agencies. Just look out on the streets. Also, I worked to repeal the head tax. I went around gathering signatures, and a lot of people who supported the head tax didn't know where the money was going, and that's why they worked to repeal it as well, because they thought it was a good idea in concept, but they had no idea where the money was going. I will not increase taxes in any way, shape, or form until we know where the money we have is going. We talk about housing affordability, and yet we never discuss that we keep raising the taxes on ourselves again and again and again. I don't know about you, but I can't afford my property taxes anymore. Thank you.
If the billion-dollar corporations don't pay tax, our workers should not pay tax. Do you know that America was funded not by taxes? The income tax came as a World War I tax. And then the people in government said, oh, we got the people's money before they get it. And they came back in World War II and made it permanent. So 20% of your workers' money goes to the government before you see your 80%. The corporations, the billion-dollar corporations pay zero for taxes because they control the legislatures of every state, the city government, and right now, the business people are trying to run a slate of police officers and police-connected people to take over city council, which is straight up fascism.
My name is Phyllis Porter. I would have to agree with Chris on this one. I think we need, for capital gain, I think we have to take it back to the legislature and start lobbying. We're going to need more money through that. Another thing is getting money is through, when I said the capital gain lobbying tax, that one I just kind of lost it on this one. Can you repeat that a little bit?
Sure. Just, do you believe the city has a responsibility to raise significant new revenue, and how would you do that at the city level?
Okay. I think with the head tax that was going on, number one, I wasn't really happy because when they started with it, they didn't have enough people, they didn't get enough information from the businesses. I think they should have gotten together and talked more with the businesses. I do think corporations do need to pay. I don't think they need to pay everything. I don't think that they have to pay as much as what was asked before, but first of all, because if you charge too much, if you haven't paid too much, I have a feeling that they can't move away. And if they move away, people will be impacted by that. When you think about the people that work for those different corporations, if you tax too much and they go away, people are going to lose their jobs. People are going to become stressed. People are going to go into financial strain. So, sorry, my time is up.
Please repeat your question.
Do you believe the city has a responsibility to raise significant new revenue to address the challenges facing our communities? And if so, what tax policy would you advocate for at the city level?
I first believe that the city needs to be responsible with the funds that it already has, to make sure that what we are receiving in terms of revenue is spent properly and spent smartly. So before we go out looking for more revenue, let's examine how we're spending our current revenue. I do agree that Seattle has a very regressive system. Our state has a very regressive system. And I think that's one of the reasons why the city is actually suing to see if we can get a income tax to challenge the Washington State Constitution that bars the state income tax. As a city, I think we need to be working with our partners at the state level to look at bringing in an income tax coupled with a reduction in our property taxes and our sales taxes. We can't have all three, but we need to be smarter and we need to have something that's more equitable for everyone in our community.
This is Tammy. So despite what some people think, Seattle is not dying. We're actually one of the fastest growing cities in the country, which means we have infrastructure and libraries and a homeless crisis that we have to pay for. And guess who's paying for that right now? All of us with our city taxes, our income, our sales tax, and our property tax. You know who's not paying for it? Big business. So we do need to generate more revenue, and I totally agree that we are spending our money on the wrong things, like police overtime for sweeping people off the street. I'm not sure why we can dream big for the fancy waterfront park and a shiny new transfer station, but we can't solve the homelessness crisis. So if we're going to spend our money, let's spend it on the things that matter, and the way we do that is with a payroll tax on big business. I'd say let's institute a payroll tax for every business and do it on a sliding scale. Maybe small businesses only pay 0.5%, large businesses pay 1%, but we have to solve these problems, and it has to stop being on the backs of you and me.
All right, last question in this round, and we're going to go to a lightning round. And if you could keep it to 45 seconds this time, and this is an easy one, so you should be able to do it in 30. What is the most frustrating choke point in your personal commute, and what would you do to fix it? What is the most frustrating choke point that you personally experience in your commute, and what would you do to fix it?
I appreciate the confidence in the short answer. Right now, the worst choke point in my commute really is when I'm going somewhere else from my office on I-5, when it goes down from 4 lanes to 2 lanes. And I think a lot of us have dealt with this problem before. One of the things you need to do is first fix the signs and let people know that some of those are pass-throughs over on the right-hand side, and you can go that way and continue on the highway. But it's gotten so congested over there, that's not going to do it. We need to take a serious look at how to address that problem, because going from 4 lanes to 2 lanes on a highway that size is just not manageable and stopping people from getting through downtown. We need to take a serious look at what solutions can be done, addressed, so that we can solve that problem.
Choke points, education. Teaching our children capitalism works. Capitalism is based on greed. It doesn't work. Nowhere in the world. It's a vampire system, and all the problems of the human beings in North America and South America and Europe is based on greed. Jeff Bezos, right here in Seattle, has $150 billion personal wealth. In every direction you go in Seattle, you got white people living in tent cities. It's a disgrace and it's a shame.
My commute is really easy. I walk 2 blocks, I'm on the light rail. From the light rail, I'm on the 550 going over the Bellevue, so every day that's really good. But the only issue I would say the choke point would be the sidewalks. I've tripped so many times on sidewalks that were uneven. I've even tripped to where I had a concussion, I lost my memory, and I ended up with 5 stitches on the side of my head. So I would say the sidewalks really need work. There's work to be done.
Ari Hoffman. I really don't have any choke points on my commute. What I do have is a recognition that we have neighborhoods in this district that don't have sidewalks. So that when somebody is trying to navigate on foot, they're forced to go out into the lane where they are subject to being potentially hit by cars. That's one thing I definitely want to fix. I want to get some sidewalks for our Brighton Dunlap neighborhood.
I ride my bike often down to Rainier Beach where I work, so I live and work in D2 and I really don't have choke points on my commute.
Chris Peguero. With Phyllis, I think sidewalks are definitely an issue for us. For me personally, I live a couple blocks from Link Light Rail, and I think, we've already outgrown that system. I think we're behind the times, and I'm glad we have it. We're expanding it. But when we have the morning rush hour, it's jam-packed, and you may have to wait for a couple of trains to get on board. So I think, that's a great system. I wish it were bigger and more robust to handle the number of folks that are coming in and out of downtown, especially if we're going to be looking at things like congestion pricing and really using mass transit to get up and back into downtown. So I think a more robust transit system is what I'd like.
All right, lightning round tonight. Do you support automated traffic enforcement cameras, speed limit reductions, and banning rights on red?
That's more than one question.
Okay, let's divide that. Do you support automated traffic enforcement cameras?
No.
I think, are you holding it? Okay, so everybody says no, except for Phyllis. Traffic enforcement cameras, like speeding cameras at stoplights. Okay, next. Speed limit reductions.
Say that again?
Lowering the speed limit,
Where?
just in general for safety. Probably not on the highway. All right, so let's get a good look. Okay, so everybody says that they agree except for Ari and Omari.
Audubon doesn't have a speed limit.
Do you support banning rights on red?
Say it again?
Banning rights on red.
Banning rights. Banning rights.
Banning it, yeah. Tammy, Chris, and Phyllis say yes. Ari, Omari, and Mark say no. All right.
Stop me from being able to turn on the
Turn right on red.
Oh, no, that's convenient.
Do you think that Lyft, Uber, and other rideshare companies should be required to include wheelchair-accessible vehicles in their fleets? All right, everybody says yes. I believe, yeah. Is removal of parking to repurpose right-of-way for non-vehicular users acceptable to you? Everybody, Omari's still thinking. So removing parts, so it's strangely worded, but basically it's acceptable to take out parking so that people who are not in cars have better access to streets. I'm just the moderator.
Listen, I'm a senior citizen, so you have to break things down.
It's a yes or no. Okay, Ari says no. Are you sitting this one out, Omari?
You're talking too fast. You get a certain age, you gotta slow down. We're elderly.
I'm just trying to keep the time and get as many questions in as possible. All right, we'll go to the next one. Is the city doing enough to implement Vision Zero?
Vision Zero?
The goal of having zero traffic fatalities and serious accidents. All right, everybody says no, they're not doing that. Last question, do you support funding the Center City Connector, the downtown streetcar? All right, everybody says yes except for Ari. All right, now we are going to go to audience questions. I will attempt to read your handwriting. How lovely. And if we can keep these also to 45 seconds so we can get through as many audience questions as possible.
Just reminder, everyone is at 5 seconds.
What is your long-term vision for Rainier Avenue in terms of transportation, safety, land use, and affordability? And I can't remember who's up first. Who was first the last time? All right.
I think it's Omari.
Omari, you're up first. Long-term vision for Rainier Avenue.
I hope they don't do to Rainier Avenue what they did to 23rd in the Africatown Central District. They reduced it from 2 lanes going each direction to 1 lane going each direction. So when you come up from the hill from UW, it's 2 lanes going, and then all of a sudden you hit 1 lane with a turn lane, you know, where if 2 cars come at the same time, they're gonna have headache. Then when it gets down to, I think, Rainier, it turns into, it's mind-boggling why you would put a choke in an area like that where there's 2 lanes going both ways on each end, then all of a sudden, boom, choke. So I hope they don't do Rainier like that.
I really wish we had more than 45 seconds on this one. But there's been far too many casualties down on Rainier Avenue. That's our main arterial in District 2. Too many casualties. So what I want to do is continue to make sure that Phase 2, which we've been promised since 2017, continues to move forward, and let's get it done now. We don't need to wait anymore. There's too many people dying. There was 1,243 incidents, I should say collisions, like over a 3-year span. We can't have that anymore. We need to work now. Too many people are dying. We've already lost 3 people on Rainier Avenue. Rainier is my #1 project. I've worked on it for the last 7 years, and I'm going to continue to make sure people can get up and down Rainier Avenue on bike, walking, or however they need to get down the street.
Okay, again, this one's Phyllis. Because I agree. Mark Solomon. My vision for Rainier is safety. Safety for our pedestrians, safety for our cyclists, safety for our vehicular traffic, safety for our buildings on Rainier that have had cars run into. So, you know, reducing the traffic or the speeds, reducing the congestion, making it safe for cyclists, making it safe for the folks who are on foot. That's my vision for Rainier, and a lot of work's already been done. Let's continue that work.
Well, this is Tammy. Yeah, I do think that we need Phase 2. We need to continue the road diet. I'd like to see the prioritization of buses. We need better safety sidewalks for pedestrians and for folks who do want to bike. Whether we put the protected bike lane there or on Beacon Avenue, people still need to feel safe biking on that road. And I said no to the cameras on the intersection. What I would like to see instead, especially on Rainier since it's so busy, is the all-way cross. I don't know exactly what you call that, but they do it at the junction and it's pretty cool. All the pedestrians cross at the same time. So I would like to see that kind of alternative instead. And we do need to make sure that safety is a priority because we've had too many people injured or killed and too many building collisions on Rainier Avenue.
Chris Peguero again. My vision is, again, looking at routes for safety, slow things down on Rainier. One thing, especially near parks and our schools and other public services like libraries, that we're increasing the number of lighted crosswalks across Rainier. I helped bring in lighted crosswalks at Genesee at La Escuelita preschool as a concerned parent. I think we need to, especially again where we have a lot of children, families crossing, we need to prioritize that we implement the safe routes to school and other safe routes around. And then everything else that everyone else said around slowing it down and road diet. Can I take a bio break? I really need to use the restroom. Like literally, I cannot wait. Go on.
I'm still Ari Hoffman. For me, Rainier Avenue, when they did the road diet, it kicked all the traffic over onto Wilson Avenue. So now Wilson Avenue is more dangerous. They didn't look at it in terms of the overall neighborhood, and I'd like to look at it as how it impacts the area surrounding it. Rainier Avenue is unique because you have a commercial section, you have a residential section, you have all different kinds of sections along Rainier Avenue. What I would like to do is give that project to somebody like Urbanova, which is doing unique things with technology and smart cities out in Spokane, and see what they can do with it, because it seems like we're just retreading the same ground we've covered before, and it doesn't seem like anything's really getting safer for the neighborhood overall. Thank you.
All right. I got confused because there's fewer people here now. What are the top three changes that you would advocate for locally to bring Seattle's carbon emissions down to neutrality? And this says by 2035. What would you do to make Seattle carbon neutral?
First of all, we can start at home. There's things that we can do at home. We can recycle. We can not eat meat. That's a good one.
What are the top three things you would do locally to bring Seattle's carbon emissions to zero?
I would make, one of the things that would, again, if we could get more cars off the road, if we could get cars off the road and get more people to walk and bike, and use other modes of transportation would be one. The other things, like I said, things that you can do at home. The fleet, the Seattle fleet of all the cars, I know that they've turned over to a lot of cars that are now more efficient for the environment. So just make sure that we continue to invest in those things.
Mark Sol, the top 3 things this we can do? Okay. One thing I've been talking about for quite a while has been greening our fleet of vehicles. The car that's assigned to me is a hybrid. I want to see more hybrid, more electric. I want to phase out petroleum-fueled cars as much as we possibly can. I want to see us do more in terms of our existing construction, to see if we can do some green retrofits of those buildings to reduce the carbon emissions from existing construction. I know that we're doing that in terms of for new construction. And I have to wrap up, and again, start at home.
This is Tammy. So I believe it's something like 50% of our carbon emissions come from vehicles in the city, but we're still prioritizing cars in all of the decisions that we make. And really that has an impact most acutely on communities of color who get displaced and who have to deal with that issue. So I think we need to implement complete streets and make sure that we're investing in all of those different modes of transportation. We need to invest in better mass transit so that we can get people out of their cars and get them where they need to go more reliably and more quickly. And then the other 40% is from building. So we need to invest in green building and infrastructure, and also invest in the just transition for workers who are in those industries, so that as they move out of those extractive economies, they're doing the right thing. These things are not an investment if they're killing the planet, so we need to invest in the right things.
Thank you for the time, so I can leave. Chris Peguero. The city's looking at electrification network, both public networking and charging system. I think that's a great idea, but it's how we build that system to make sure that it's equitable. And one thing that I recognize in my work around the environment is that technologies are great in helping us reduce our impact on climate and the environment, but if it's in a mass market and everyone has access to it, it's not going to touch that system and changing those outcomes. So how can the city influence car makers around electric vehicles to have access for all folks? So ride sharing programs, etc. And the last thing I'll leave with is freight electrification, diesel. I'll stop. Thank you.
If we're worried about the environment, then I agree, we have to start here at home. Before we get into these projects, which we don't know how we're going to pay for, I'd like to start with figuring out why there's thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds of trash out on our streets, and why there's needles in our parks, and why there's human waste all over our streets and our sidewalks and our parks, and why the methamphetamine count in Lake Washington is up, so much so that it's tracking in sea life. I'd like to solve those problems first. And at the same time, we can deal with green construction, we can deal with these things, but the free market has a great way of finding innovation to make it cheaper for everybody. And that I'm putting rain-wise on my house right now because I want a little bit of my tax dollars back, and I know it's good for the environment. So if we find ways that are good for people to do these things and that are cheap, people will do them.
talks about the free market. I'm talking about the slave market. As with the stock market, the first stock on the stock market was black folks. It's amazing. Anybody know who the Seven Sisters are? The big oil companies. I see the earth as a live body, and I would hate for my body to be drilled in and things just sucked out of it, this over here, over there. I don't understand that because it's going to run out. Then what?
All right, we're going to try to get through a couple more audience questions, and then before we wrap up. The next question is, I'm going to combine a couple of questions. What makes D2 unique from the rest of Seattle? What makes you uniquely positioned to represent us? And then another question asker pointed out that this meeting is held in the heart of a huge East African community, yet I don't see a single person from that community here. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but this is the question asker. Not accurate. What would you do about that? And I think that would be inclusion of the East African community in D2. So what makes D2 unique? How are you uniquely positioned to represent us and East African representation in particular? And we'll start with Mark.
What makes D2 unique is its diversity, its vibrancy, the cultures, the languages, I can't explain it. It's just, I'm excited about this community. I love this community. I'm from this community. I was born and raised here. And I've seen the changes over the years. I've seen, the brilliance and diversity of its people. And what makes me uniquely qualified to represent these folks is this is home. I'm from this community. I've been serving this community for almost 30 years. And I want to continue to serve that community just at a different level.
This is Tammy. So what makes this community unique is that we do have such incredible diversity in languages, religions, cultures, backgrounds, lived experiences. And what makes me uniquely qualified to serve this district is that I've been organizing in all of these communities for the last 20 years, and I have the grassroots organizing experience to take with me to City Hall. I want to shout out to Khadija and Halima who are here from the East African community. They're on my campaign. That's who's here. The people that I've been working with in the community. So I am uniquely qualified because I have relationships with people throughout District 2. I've been organizing with people throughout District 2. And between that and my 20 years of policy and budget experience at the city, county, and state level, I'm the person who will fight for this community.
My name is Peguero. I've been a resident of Seattle for 20 years, and 10 years into my life here, I moved to Beacon Hill, and it was the first time in my prior 10 years that I had actually felt like I came home. And it was, for me, being a diverse background, it was great to find that finally after so long, and we decided to have a family here. D2 is unique, and it is, again, the most diverse ethnically, racially, economically. We have the highest number of labor representation in District 2. My job at the city has been pushing against status quo politicians that don't see us, that look at us as the bad stepchild. I want to make sure that we have bold, responsive leadership in City Council, and I have done that work for the last 12 years.
I'm Ari Hoffman. I've lived and worked in D2 for the last 16 years, ever since I moved back here. My wife's family is fourth generation. They've been here ever since the Jewish community moved from the Central District in the 1950s. They were among the pioneers of the Jewish community here in Seward Park. And I love this community. I love that you can go from Seward Park and go all the way across, and all of a sudden you're in an industrial area, and there's a commercial area, and there's more residential areas, how different this entire area is. For me, the most important thing to me is that you vote. Not that you vote for me. Our voter turnout is sad. More people need to get out there and vote. I don't want to be, thank you, I don't want to be the representative of just the people who agree with me. I want to be the representative of everybody in this room. no matter which side of the aisle you're on. So please get your friends to go out and vote, even if it's not for me.
For the Somali community, Satahai, for the Amharic community, the Tigrinya community, Indamina for the males, Kamilaha for the males, Kamilahi for the females. Being in Africa, all over Africa, I have the little girls teach me the songs and the language because little girls got patience. And then they love being the teacher. I've been working with the East African community for 40 years. When I was in high school, I loved being around the African students. And then one day I found out I was African.
Hi, I'm Phyllis. You know, I really love the South End of Seattle. I remember coming to Seattle back in 1986, and the reason why. There was cool waters, there was cool summers, there was blue waters, and there was opportunity. And I moved down on Kenyon in 46. And there I began to see outside of Seattle, I could see that things were different in that community. I could see that there were a lot of people, a lot of culture. And I really love that. But not only have I lived in it, I've been there. I've seen the 7-year-old girl who got ran over. I've been at the hospital. I've talked to the parents. I've seen the 15-year-old paraplegic who got ran over on Martin Luther King. I've lived the struggle. Not only have I worked in the community, but I am the community because I have been there and I have struggled with a lot of people that live there. And I can honestly look in a lot of people's eyes and say, I feel you and I hear you because I have been there.
All right, last question. We'll start with Tammy. This is an audience question. The city's own analysis showed a shortage of open space in the South End, and I'm particularly concerned about a lack of access to nature. How do you see yourself increasing our access to nature here in the South End?
This is Tammy. So we have several parks. I think we have a giant golf course that gets used somewhat. I think there are lots of opportunities for open space within the district that we need to take advantage of. I also know that in Georgetown there are several spots where there are small pocket parks that people are interested in trying to expand, trying to take more advantage of. And so I would be happy to meet with folks throughout the district to see what you want to do about expanding those expanding access and opportunities for people to get into those parks. In Rainier Beach, we've been doing a lot of work at Beersheba trying to expand access to the beach along there so that folks can get there because right now it is blocked by the marina, and we want to change that.
Chris Peguero. I think we do have a lot of incredible space here in District 2 and throughout the city. I think one of the one program that I'm really incredibly excited for that I've been able to work on at the city is a partnership with Latino Outdoors. This year with Outdoor Afro Asian Outdoors, interim program Wild, the North Cascades National Park and North Cascades Environmental Learning Center, bringing in students from our district, kids of color, up to the North Cascades to experience our national park system, since that is usually it's difficult to get to. One thing that we're doing around that program is making sure that transportation, language, equipment is not a limiting factor in accessing those natural spaces outside the city.
I'm Ari Hoffman. We need to protect our parks and playfields and recreational areas. Something like the green space camping ordinance that was proposed a few years ago, which I worked very, very hard to stop, is a very, very bad idea. I'm tired of cleaning needles out of the dugouts of the fields that I coach on. I've had enough of that. We're not protecting our parks well enough. We're not protecting our green spaces well enough. We need to make sure that they are protected. We need to make sure that our playfields, and yes, even our golf courses are protected, because kids sometimes don't have any other places to play because they can't be part of a team sport. And there's a lot of kids who go up to Jefferson and do that. And there's a lot of other places they go. And if you take out the golf course, what's next? You're going to take out the baseball fields, the soccer fields? What sport's more important than the next one?
I coached Little League Baseball for 40 years and never made a dime. And the reason why I coached Little League Baseball is because I like young people, and I like young people to be positive. I don't like bad kids. And I found out the way to deal with that was to work with them, not lock them up in no jail. And I want to apologize to my African brothers and sisters for growing up as a dark-skinned white person. My dad was the first black electrical engineer in the whole Northwest, Washington, Idaho. He was head of Fish and Wildlife in 1957 and 58. I was the 1800 Seattle ping pong champion until I got beat by the 14-year-old Asian from Canada.
I think one way is to start with the kids, to start with education. We take our kids to the park at a young age, and as they continue to grow, I think it's a great responsibility if you work with your children to let them know what the grounds actually mean, what parks can do, how it can help the environment in the future. And if we start really early, I think those kids will grow up to make better stewards of the outdoor spaces. And also, again, we do have a lot of parks in the area. We even have a space where we have so much space that we even have pea patches where we can also take the kids and get them invested now and let them understand what these parks and what the ground can actually do to better our future.
Mark Solomon. To me, the last thing we should be doing is removing the green spaces that we have in our community already. So I'm very clear, I oppose redevelopment or privatization of Jefferson Golf Course. One reason is because I camped for my grandmother on that golf course more times than I can count. There are a lot of trees, a lot of open space, and it's a community asset, it's part of our fabric, and we need to maintain it. I want to increase the use of street end parks. I've had the opportunity to work with the Parks Department, with Seattle Public Utilities, and with the Department of Transportation to enhance our street and green spaces. I want to see more of that, and I want to increase the opportunities for young people to get into nature.
All right, thank you all, and now we're going to go to closing statements. You each have 1 minute to respond to anything you didn't get a chance to respond to. Use it however you like, and we'll start with Chris.
Exciting. I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity. For me, it's really been incredible to campaign alongside some incredible folks as well. I'm really incredibly proud to be part of this district and have had a long career with the city of Seattle, and I want to take that expertise that I've been able to build to push against status quo to make sure that we are benefiting all equally with our. I got distracted, I'm sorry. Is everyone okay? Okay.
Is everything all right?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I know there's not a lot of people in this room who agree with what I'm saying tonight. I know this isn't my crowd. I know that some of you, I said I wasn't actually seeking your endorsement. I just want to be candid. I want to be, have candor with you and say that's not something I'm going after, but I'm happy to have the discussion. I'm happy to have the discussion with anybody in this room. My business cards are back there. They have my contact information because my city representatives were never there for me when I needed them. So if you don't agree with me, that's perfectly fine. Let's go out and have coffee. I'll even treat for it. Let's go out and have a beer. I'll treat for that too. I don't even drink beer. I'll have a scotch. But let's go out and have the hard discussions. Let's go out and have the policy discussions, and let's talk. Because that is what's missing from our civic engagement is civility. Let's bring that back.
The reason why I don't want you voting for me, I would prefer you vote for Ms. Morales, is because hopefully next year I'll be back in Ghana, West Africa, implementing the city I designed. I'm here in Seattle because I was born and raised in Seattle, and I can't do politics in Africa. It's a state bit. But I can go to the village where the land is free and everybody loves America because we're perceived as rich. So please vote for the person that ran Ruth Harold off last year. I was so proud of Ms. Morales having the guts to challenge Bruce. He's a martial arts expert. He was on my football team in high school. He's dangerous.
I'm Phyllis, and I want to be a part of a city that allows diversity, embraces diversity, and also to make sure that there's equal accessibility to all citizens of the city. Not just the rich, not the rich, I want it to be for everybody. So also I want the city to know, the people in the community to know that I also feel like we have people that often make policies, people that often bring laws. However, a lot of the laws, the policies they're working on does not even impact them. I want to be that person where I have been impacted by policy. I want to be that person because policy hasn't worked for me. And I want to be that person who can listen to the community, be in the community, to listen to the people in the community, and also take that back to City Hall and say, you know what, it's all about the people. So again, I want to represent those that look like me. I want to represent those that don't look like me. I want to represent those that have money, those that do not have money. I want to represent everybody because I know the struggle.
Mark Solomon. As I said before, this is home. I was born in this community, raised in this community, been working in this community. This is home, and I want to take care of home. And the people in this community, I consider family, and I want to take care of family. I want to make sure that your voices are heard downtown. I want to make sure that the city responds to you. When you call, when you email, somebody gets back to you. I want to make sure that we're working together to get things done. We can get a lot more done when we work with each other as opposed to yell at each other or point fingers at each other. I've been bringing people together for almost 30 years to get things done in this community, and I intend to continue to do that on City Council. And I'm asking for your support. And I thank you for being here tonight and showing an interest in your community and coming out tonight. So thank you for this opportunity.
This is Tammy. Well, thank you, Omari, for that unsolicited support. I am running because we are at a crossroads in this city, and you know, this is about more than just running to represent D2, although that is always going to be my priority. But I worry that the soul of this city is at risk right now. We are at a crossroads where we will continue to let corporate power players, people who can pick up the phone and make decisions on our behalf, continue to have undue influence at City Hall, or we can shift power to the people, back to our communities, to our low-income folks, to communities of color, and make sure that our voices are being heard. That's why I'm running, to build power for the people of District 2. I, as I said, have a proven track record of working with council members. I don't think that it is an asset right now to say that you are inexperienced in this realm. There's too much at stake. I want to take my grassroots organizing and my policy experience to work for you, so I'm asking for your vote. Thank you.
All right, thank you all so much. Let's have a round of applause for all